The sun hung low like a dying ember in the reddish-orange sky of Veltrex 9. Dust swirled through the air, covering the cracked fields and rusted tools lying forgotten on the barren ground. Rick Dawson, a lone human farmer, wiped sweat from his brow and looked at his land with tired eyes. Nothing grew anymore. The machines were old, the soil was dry, and hope had died seasons ago. He walked back to his farmhouse slowly, his boots dragging through the dirt. His food was running out, credits were low, and no one came this far out anymore. Not even the government drones bothered scanning this forgotten stretch of land. Rick preferred it that way. Quiet, no rules. Just him and the silence. But tonight, something felt different. As he approached the barn, he heard it, a soft scratching sound, like claws against wood. His body tensed. Was it an animal? A scavenger? He grabbed his old shotgun and stepped toward the noise. He opened the barn door slowly. There, crouched in the shadows, was a figure thin, tall, and shaking. A cloak of torn fabric clung to her slender frame, dust falling from her every movement. As light touched her skin, Rick saw the truth. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes glowing faintly gold, and her face narrow but strangely beautiful, alien, but not monstrous. She raised both hands slowly in surrender. "Not here to hurt you," she said, her voice dry and weak. "Please, just one night. Just one meal." Rick stared, heart pounding. "What the hell are you?" he asked, not lowering the gun. "I carried crates. I worked farms." "Human farms," she whispered, kneeling now. They left me. I walked for days. I have nothing. Just feed me tonight, and I'll carry your burdens." Her voice cracked. Her eyes did not beg like a child's. They pleaded like someone ready to collapse. Rick said nothing. He should have turned her away. Harboring aliens without registration was a crime. But there was something in her voice, something broken, something familiar. He lowered the gun. "Get inside," he said gruffly. "But no tricks," she nodded. Fast, crawling into the barn. He handed her an old water bottle, and she drank like a dying plant touching rain for the first time. She didn't stop to talk, didn't ask questions. She simply followed. Rick tossed her a stale bread roll and some dried meat. She took it with both hands and whispered something in a language he didn't understand. A thank you, maybe. Or a prayer. "You got a name?" Rick asked after a while. "Taranai," she replied, chewing slowly now, more careful. "You from the camps?" he asked. She nodded. "They called us tools. We carried things, dug holes, fixed machines." "You don't look strong enough to carry anything now." "I'll get strong again," she said. "If I'm fed." Rick didn't answer. He just watched her. That night, she didn't sleep. Instead, she cleaned the barn quietly. She fixed the old broom, swept the floor, stacked the broken crates. She even fixed one of the old lanterns using parts from a broken drone. Rick had forgotten about Doc by sunrise. Rick found her outside, kneeling beside his broken irrigation pipe, hands covered in oil. "What are you doing?" he asked. "You said I could stay one night," she said without looking up. "I must earn it." Rick looked at her, really looked. She wasn't just another stray. She was trained, precise, quiet. She moved with purpose. "You know how to fix irrigation?" he asked, surprised. "I built them," she replied. "For the humans before the war ended." That made Rick pause. He had heard stories. Her kind once worked under human control after their empire fell. Some rebelled, some escaped. Most disappeared. "So what's your plan?" Rick asked. "Fix my farm and move on?" "I have no plan," she said honestly. "Just hunger. And hands that still remember how to work." He didn't say anything for a long time. The wind picked up again, carrying sand through the air. Finally he muttered, "All right, one more night. No promises after that." Taranay looked up, nodding once. her golden eyes filled with quiet fire. As Rick walked back toward the house, he didn't notice her smile. She had planted a seed in the dirt and in his heart, and seeds always grow when fed. The sun rose weakly over the dusty land, casting a soft orange glow over Rick Dawson's broken farm. But today, something strange had happened. Water, not a lot, but enough to make the dry ground dark and soft near the crop rows. Enough to surprise Rick. He followed the trail to the irrigation pipe. It was working, and beside it, crouched in the dirt with oil-stained hands in calm focus, was Taranai, the alien stranger he let stay just one night. She wasn't just cleaning anymore. She was rebuilding. Rick stood in silence, unsure if he was angry or impressed. "How did you fix that?" he finally asked. Taranai didn't stop working. She spoke without turning her head. "It was not broken, just neglected." Rick raised an eyebrow. "You trying to insult me?" "No," she said softly. "I'm trying to stay." That hit him harder than it should have. The barn comes alive that afternoon. Rick watched her move through the barn like a shadow, quick, focused, quiet. She sharpened rusted tools, rewired old machines, and organized parts he hadn't touched in years. Every motion had purpose. Every tool fit her hands like they remembered their job. Rick finally asked the question that had been burning inside him. "Where did you learn all this?" Taranai paused, then replied, "Before your war, my people built things. I was trained to fix power cores, design plumbing systems, program harvesters." He stared at her, confused. "You were an engineer?" She shook her head. "I was a tool." That word again. Tool. As if she wasn't a person. As if someone else had taken her skills and used them like metal parts, cold and replaceable. A visit from the sky. Just before sundown, a low hum echoed across the sky. Rick froze. Taranai ducked behind the barn wall without a word. A government drone. The silver disc hovered, its scanner lights flashing, looking for undocumented beings. Rick's heart thudded in his chest. The drone slowed above his land, scanning the rows, the barn, the broken house. Then, after a long pause, it flew away. Rick exhaled hard. Sweat rolled down his neck. Taranai stepped out from hiding. "Do they come often?" "Not lately," Rick said. "They gave up on this place." She nodded. "But if they come again, you'll be in danger because of me." Rick looked at her for a long second. Then, with a shrug, "This farm's already dying. Danger doesn't scare me. Hunger does." She said nothing, but her eyes softened. That night, she placed a small toolkit at his doorstep with a note. "Let me stay. I'll fix it all." The ghost light. Late in the night, Rick heard something strange. A glow from the barn. A soft blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat. He grabbed his coat and walked out. Inside the barn, Taranai sat beside a small device, metal, alien, humming with energy. It wasn't human tech. Not even close. "What is that?" Rick asked, eyes narrowing. She didn't hide it. "It's a soil booster. It reads minerals and gives the land what it needs: light, warmth, water balance. I built it, secretly, from scrap." Rick felt a wave of fear. If the government found alien tech on his land, he'd lose everything. Maybe even his life. "You trying to get me killed?" "No," Taranai said calmly. "I'm trying to feed you." The first green leaf. By morning, something impossible happened. A small green shoot was poking through the soil, thicker, healthier, faster than any crop he'd planted in years. Rick knelt beside it, touched it. Real, alive. He looked at her. "You did this?" She nodded. "I said I would carry your burdens, human," she said softly. "Let me." Ending hook. Rick stood in the doorway, watching her clean grease from her arms, her alien face calm, her eyes bright with silent promise. He didn't know who she truly was, or what she might bring. But for the first time in years, something was growing. Not just in the ground, but in him. Hope. The wind howled louder than usual that night. Dust blew across the empty land, and the old wood of the farmhouse groaned like it was whispering secrets. Rick Dawson sat at the kitchen table, sipping from a cracked metal mug, staring at nothing. The light flickered above him. A storm was coming. Tara and I was outside in the barn, working as usual, fixing a broken grain separator, humming a tune Rick had never heard before. Strange, soft, sad, but then came the knock. 3 hard knocks. Not a neighbor. Rick had no neighbors. He grabbed his shotgun, loaded 2 shells, and stepped toward the door. When he opened it, a tall man in a black patrol uniform stood there, helmet on, badge shining, blaster holstered. "Evening," the man said. His voice was cold, bored. Rick nodded. "Evening." The visitor, the soldier, looked around, eyes scanning the dead crops, the barn, the machinery. "You live out here alone?" "Yeah," Rick replied. "Ain't much to steal, if that's what you're checking." "Not here for thieves," the soldier said. "There's been reports of alien escapees. A few were spotted heading toward this sector. You see anything unusual?" Rick's heart pounded. He kept his face still. "No, nothing but dry dirt and silence." The soldier stepped forward, uninvited. "Mind if I look around?" Rick didn't answer. That was enough. The barn breathed. Renee heard the boots before she saw the shadow. She froze, hands still on the tool she'd been using. Her breathing stopped. She looked around and saw no good place to hide. No time to climb, no tunnel to dig, just hay metal and fear. Then she did what she hadn't done in years. She blended. Using a small device from her cloak, she activated a shimmer field. It didn't make her invisible, just forgotten. She sat still like a shadow in the barn. The soldier entered. His boots crushed the floorboards. His flashlight scanned the walls. It stopped right near her face. He paused. She didn't move. Not even a blink. Then, slowly, the light moved away. Rick's lie outside. The soldier stepped out of the barn and faced Rick. "Strange," he said. "Found fresh footprints in the mud." Rick said nothing. "Foot size doesn't match yours." "Smaller, not human," Rick grunted. "Got raccoons. One of them walks funny." The soldier stared at him. Then, he smirked. "Right, raccoons." Rick didn't smile back. After a long pause, the soldier turned. "Stay safe, farmer." He walked off toward his hoverbike and disappeared into the storm winds. Rick stood still, heart pounding. His hand gripped the shotgun so tight it left a mark. Renee's truth later that night, after silence returned. Rick walked to the barn. Tara and I sat on the floor, pale, eyes closed. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded, barely. "You could have gotten us both killed." "I know," she said quietly. He sighed and leaned against the wall. "I lied for you. Why?" She opened her eyes. "Because I am not just a worker, Rick. I was made for war." Rick looked at her sharply. "I built machines that destroyed human cities," she said. "Not by choice. They called us engineer class. They wired my brain to obey. I had no voice." "But you have one now," Rick replied. She nodded. "Yes, and I use it to say thank you." The fire and the promise that night. Rick lit a fire outside the barn. He and Taranai sat near it. She looked at the flames with sadness in her eyes. "I never saw fire before the war," she said. "My planet was metal, cold, controlled." "Sounds horrible," Rick muttered. She smiled weakly. "It was. Until now." She pulled out a small object from her pocket, shaped like a flower but glowing softly blue. "What's that?" Rick asked. "A seed," she said. "The last of my people's crops. It only grows in soil that accepts peace." Rick held it carefully. Then, without asking, he dug a small hole and planted it. Ending hook far above, the soldier reported nothing suspicious. But a second patrol was scheduled. And somewhere in the sky, a ship was already watching. Rick didn't know it yet. But this farm wouldn't be silent for long. because something ancient was beginning to grow again. The morning was quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It was the kind of quiet that felt like a storm was hiding behind the sky. The air was thick. Even the wind seemed to wait. Rick Dawson stepped out of his farmhouse, eyes scanning the horizon. No patrols, no drones. Just silence. And then he saw her. Taranai stood in the field, kneeling beside a patch of soil. Her hands moved gently, almost like she was praying. In front of her, something strange glowed faintly under the dirt. Rick walked closer. "What are you doing?" he asked. She looked up, calm as always. "Planting something." "From home." The alien Cedric crouched next to her. The soil looked normal, but he saw the shimmer just under the surface. "Is it dangerous?" "No," she said. "It's life." She opened her hand and showed him a small pod. It pulsed with soft blue light. "It's called a callan root. We used it to survive famines. It grows fast, strong, but only in soil that welcomes it." Rick frowned. "What does that mean?" "Soil doesn't think." Taranai smiled faintly. "It does. In its own way. War ruins more than cities. It poisons land too. This seed only grows where peace lives." Rick looked around at his farm, dry, cracked, and lifeless. "Let's see if it believes in second chances," he muttered. The promise of food. That night, Rick didn't sleep. He sat by the window, watching the field. The wind had changed. The ground looked darker, richer, as if the earth had taken a breath after holding it for years. By morning, something impossible had happened. The seed had sprouted. Not a weak little sprout, but a thick green stalk, rising from the dirt like it belonged there. Its leaves shimmered faintly in the early sun. Rick touched one and felt it. Warm, alive, real. Taranai joined him quietly. "You kept your promise," he said. She nodded. "You gave me food. I returned it." The secret below the barn. But things weren't all peaceful. That afternoon, while looking for a missing tool, Rick noticed something strange in the barn floor, a piece of metal poking from the dirt under. A loose plank. He pulled it up and dug. What he found made his heart stop. A buried tech case, alien design. Glowing symbols on the side. Locked. He carried it outside. "Taranai, you want to explain this?" She froze. Her eyes dropped to the box, her voice lowered. "That's not mine." "What is it then?" "It's old," she said. "Very old. From the war. It was likely dropped when your side took this land." Rick tapped it. "It's still active." Taranai's face changed. Fear. "You need to bury it again," she said. "Now." "Why?" "Because if it's a beacon, someone might already be coming." Watch her in the hills that night. Rick and Taranai argued in whispers. He wanted to destroy the case. She said it was too risky. He asked her why she was so afraid. She looked him in the eye and said, "Because that's not just a tech case. It could be a memory box. It could hold war plans or names. If someone scans it, they might think you're a traitor. Or worse, one of us." Rick didn't like any of it. He didn't sleep again that night. And in the hills beyond the farm, a figure watched through binoculars. Not a soldier. Not a drone. Someone else. The fire inside Taranai sat near the barn fire, staring at the growing stalk in the field. Rick joined her, tossing another log in. "I don't know what I'm doing," he said finally. She tilted her head. "You are surviving. I lied to a soldier. I'm hiding you. And now I've got alien tech under my barn." She said nothing for a long time. Then, "Do you want me to leave?" Rick didn't answer. "I told you I would carry your burdens," she said softly. "That includes the ones you don't want." Rick looked at her, really looked at her. Her skin was blue, yes. Her voice strange. But she wasn't a monster. She was more human than most humans he'd met. Ending hook. The next morning, something terrifying happened. The alien stalk had bloomed overnight, but it wasn't the only thing that rose. Footprints. Not Rick's, not Taranai's, new ones. Leading from the hills to the edge of the barn. And near the stalk, a message burned into the dirt with laser heat. We know she's here. The message in the dirt burned like fire. We know she's here. Rick stood frozen in the field, the glowing stalk beside him swaying gently in the wind. But nothing felt gentle now. Nothing felt safe. He looked around quickly, no one in sight. Just footprints, heavy boots. Leading in, then out. Someone had come close. Too close. He rushed back to the barn. Taranai, he shouted. We have a problem. The warning Taranai stepped out of the shadows, holding a wrench in one hand. Her cloak half wrapped around her shoulders. Rick pointed toward the field. They found us. Someone was here last night. Her eyes narrowed. She ran to the field and knelt beside the burned message. The alien script was clear, sharp, intimidating. Taranai touched the ground, then closed her eyes. It wasn't a soldier, she said. It was one of my kind, an exile. Rick tensed. An alien? She nodded slowly. A rebel. Maybe a bounty hunter. Someone who doesn't want peace. Rick clenched his jaw. So now both humans and your people are after you. She looked him in the eye. No, now they're after us. The attack that night, just after sunset. It happened. The farm lights blinked once, then died. Silence. Then, the sound of movement quick. Sharp footsteps on gravel. Rick grabbed his shotgun. Taranai picked up her blade, a bone knife she had kept hidden until now. From the shadows, a figure leapt into the barn, hissing in alien tongue. Taranai met him midair, slamming him against the wall. Dust and hay exploded into the air. Rick aimed his gun but didn't fire. The intruder wore a cracked mask. His skin was darker than Taranai's, his eyes wild. He screamed at her. You should have burned with the others. Taranai growled back in her native tongue, and fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. The choice after a struggle that lasted minutes but felt like hours. She pinned the intruder to the ground. Her knife pressed to his throat. Rick stood behind her, breathing hard. Do it, the masked alien spat. End me. Taranai's hand shook. She looked at Rick. He didn't say anything. She lowered the knife. No more killing, she said quietly. Not here. The exile's eyes widened in confusion. You've gone soft. No, she replied. I've found a better way. Rick stepped forward. He doesn't leave here. Taranai nodded. He won't, but his message will. The fire pit. They tied the exile up and dragged him to an old concrete pit behind the barn, once used to burn trash. Now forgotten. Rick tossed the alien tech box into it. Taranai stared at it for a long time. You still want to keep it? Rick asked. She shook her head. No, that part of me is over. She poured fuel over the box. Rick lit the match. Together, they watched the past burn. The flames rose high, blue and red, casting strange lights on their faces. The fire crackled like laughter. Or maybe warning. The plant that spoke the next morning. The stalk in the field had changed again. It now had fruit. Blue, glowing, hanging low like it wanted to be touched. Rick picked one carefully. It was warm. Almost pulsing. Taranai touched his hand. Don't eat it yet. It's not just food, it carries memory. Rick frowned. What do you mean? If you eat it, it will show you things. My people used it for healing, for truth. Rick stared at the fruit. And you want me to see your truth? She nodded. I want you to understand why I ran. Why I begged. Ending hook that night. Rick held the glowing fruit in both hands. Taranai waited beside the fire, silent. He took a bite. The world tilted. And suddenly, he wasn't on his farm anymore. He was inside her memories, and what he saw would change everything. Rick Dawson gasped and dropped the glowing fruit. He fell back, shaking, eyes wide open, staring into the sky like it had just swallowed him whole. Taranai rushed to his side. Breathe, she whispered. It's only a vision. But Rick wasn't sure, because what he saw wasn't a dream. It was her life. Inside the memory he had stood in a city made of metal towers and glowing sky bridges. Not Earth, another world hers. He saw Taranai, young and full of fire, leading a team of alien engineers. They built machines, not weapons, tools for life. Energy harvesters, food replicators, healing lights. Then came the war. Humans arrived with their ships, their fear, their orders. Her city burned, and Taranai, brilliant, strong, was captured, silenced, and reprogrammed like a living wrench. A tool, not a person. Rick had seen the collar, the commands, the screams. And worst of all, he saw her cry. Not for herself, but for the machines she once built, now turned into weapons. Back on the farm, Rick sat up slowly, still shaking. His voice cracked. You were a builder." Taranai nodded. "Until I became their prisoner. You saved lives," he said. "And they made you destroy." "I tried to forget," she said. "But the fruit remembers, always." Rick looked at the field, now full of glowing stalks. 10, 20, all blooming, all impossible. "How did we get here?" he whispered. "You gave me food," she replied. "And I gave you life." The government drone returned suddenly. A loud hum split the sky. Rick stood. Taranai stiffened. A silver government drone flew over the farm faster, lower, scanning the crops with blinking red lights. This time, it didn't fly away. It hovered, then slowed. Then descended. Rick cursed under his breath. Taranai stepped forward, eyes locked on the machine. "This is it," she said. "They know." The confrontation. The drone's panel opened. A camera lens zoomed in. A robotic voice spoke. "Unauthorized alien agriculture detected. Surrender for inspection." Rick stepped in front of Taranai. "This is my farm, my crops." "Alien technology is forbidden under Section 14. You are in violation of." Boom. A blast came from the trees. The drone exploded mid-sentence, bursting into pieces and falling like burning rain. Taranai screamed. Rick ducked. Smoke filled the sky. Out of the tree line came a shadow, not a human, not fully alien. The exile had returned with reinforcements. "Wrong kind of harvest." Rick grabbed his shotgun. Taranai grabbed his arm. "No," she said. "They want you to fight." "That's how they win," Rick growled. "Then what do we do? Let them burn everything?" "No," she replied. "We show them. We are not weak." She ran into the field, touching one of the glowing stalks. It pulsed. Then another stalk lit up. Then another. The crops were connected. Alive. Powerful. The living field. As the attackers closed in, the field lit like a wave, green and blue, rising with a low hum. Then the ground shook. The stalks unleashed a shockwave, a wall of light and sound, knocking the exiles off their feet. The leaders screamed and ran. The rest scattered into the woods. The field went still again. Rick stared in disbelief. What was that? Taranai smiled faintly. "The harvest. It protects those who plant in peace." Ending hook. But peace wouldn't last. Because far above the planet, in orbit, a human warship had received the drone's final signal, and its captain had just given a cold, final order. Lock onto the farm. Prepare for surface inspection. Rick and Taranai had won one fight, but the real war was coming. The sky wasn't red anymore. It was burning white. A human warship had entered the atmosphere, its engines screaming across the sky like judgment itself. Birds vanished. The wind stopped. And every inch of Rick Dawson's quiet farm now glowed. Like a target, Taranai stood at the edge of the glowing field. Her hands were raised to the sky. She could feel the ship above, feel the scan crawling over her bones. "They've come," she whispered. "For me." Rick stepped beside her, face set and angry. "No, they've come for us." The voice from above a huge screen unfolded from the underside of the ship, hovering just above the field. A human face appeared, an officer in gray armor, with hard eyes and a scar across his chin. Farmer Rick Dawson. The voice echoed, "You are harboring an unauthorized alien fugitive. Step away from her, and your farm will be spared." Rick didn't move. The officer leaned forward. "She is a former war engineer. She built weapons that killed our soldiers. This land will not protect her." Terranay stepped forward. "I built machines. Yes," she said loudly. "But now I build life." She pointed to the field, glowing, strong, filled with the blue harvest. The officer's voice turned cold. "We don't care. This is a violation. Step aside or be judged." With her the burden of choice, Rick looked at her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he turned and stepped in front of her. "She carried my farm when it was dying. She carried my tools, my hope, my land," he said, voice steady. "So now I'll carry her." He raised both arms. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The standoff warship charged its surface cannon. A deep hum echoed through the ground. Animals fled. Terranay grabbed Rick's arm. "I won't let you die for me." He shook his head. "No, I'm dying with you. There's a difference." She looked at him, really looked, and in that moment, she understood something no command, no collar, no machine could ever force. This was what freedom tasted like. The field awakens, the crops glowing, humming began to move again. Their roots pulsed through the soil. Their energy spread like veins across the land. Suddenly, the sky above cracked, not with fire but with light. A massive wave of energy pulsed from the field, straight into the warship's scan beam. The ship glitched. The officer's screen flickered. "What is this?" The field had sent a message. A memory. Everything Terranay had lived. Every life she saved. Every machine she refused to build. Every pain she carried. Every burden she never let go. The warship paused. Then it backed off. Slowly, silently, the engines pulled the ship higher, and then it left. Peace returns to Terranay. Collapsed to her knees. Rick held her tightly. "They're gone," he whispered. "You're free." She nodded, tears falling. "So are you." The fields around them were still glowing, but now the light wasn't alien. It was home. Epilogue. 1 week later, children ran through the blue crops, laughing. People from nearby farms had come to see the miracle field. Some came for food. Some for safety. Some for forgiveness. Terranay now walked freely, no cloak, no fear. Her hands were stained with soil, her face with peace. Rick fixed machines again, but never alone. One sign stood at the gate of the farm, written in both human and alien languages. "This land belongs to those who feed, not those who fear."